Good morning, YouTubers. See if I can get you to stay up there. Okay. Joe Kersey here on Wednesday, March 19th, 2015, and it's about 8:30 in the morning Eastern Daylight Time. And I'm sitting over here in the parking lot of St. Catherine's Roman Catholic Church here, down in the east side of Columbus, down on the east side of Columbus, actually about 2 blocks north of where my son and daughter-in-law live. You've got St. Catherine's, and you've got down here where they live. My grandson Carter is bringing up the bread and wine at the Holy Communion starting at 9 o'clock. Now, it took me 40 minutes to get down here, and so I left at 7:40, and so I got here plenty early. But sometimes it can be a real bear to drive around Columbus this time of day. In fact, I missed one of my turns. I ended up in the parking lot of the airport. This St. Catherine's Church is in a strange area of Columbus. It's part of the city of Columbus, but sometimes it's called East Columbus. You see this Gould Road. That's the boundary between a whole different city over here that's completely surrounded by Columbus called Bexley, Ohio. And then over here you've got the city of Columbus. And then it goes out to where it ends on, farther, several miles farther east. And then Bryden Road is the road where, my son and daughter-in-law live on Bryden Road. When I drove past their house, my son's a bastard, isn't it? When I drove past their house, you could see the water line, the water line leak that they've had going now for about 4 or 5 days, burbling merrily away. And one side of the whole one side of the street, you had this sort of this water going down the gutters, down the entire one side of their street. Then there were 2 big electric trucks getting ready to set up and do some electrical work down there. So it was a crowded little fit, driving past their place. It's getting on toward about 8:45. I may go in and just, sit in there for a while. It's a pretty church. Inside, well, it's pretty on the outside too if you like the Art Deco-y stuff. 1931, that goes along with the time it was built. It's a true cruciate church. You view it from the air, it's an actual cross. Transepts and the whole bit. Well, home safe by the grace of God. It's around, it's about 10:45 now in the morning. I indeed did get to see Carter carry up I think he actually carried up the bread. Anyway, he was one of the group of three kids that carried up the bread and the wine. And this was, they have a daily mass at 8 at St. Catherine's. And I think on Wednesdays they have a church-wide, a school-wide mass at 9 o'clock. I was probably not the only sort of parental unit, grandparent unit type there, but the others were sitting over in what would be the north transept in the back of the kindergarten class, or classes. I don't know how many, whether they have one or two over there at St. Catherine School. And I sort of thought I saw him, but then sure enough, when it was time to bring the stuff up the main aisle, he was in the group of three, and I was right in the back. I sat in the next to last pew. And which is unusual for me in a church, but since I knew I wasn't going to be able to take communion, I thought, well, when they actually start passing the communion out, I'll just make a reverent exit. That's what I did. But no, so I got to see him. I don't know if he saw me or not. It's just as well he didn't, actually, because that would mean he was paying attention to what he was supposed to be doing. The interior isn't quite as Art Deco as the outside. A lot of marble. Not particularly good quality marble, but a lot of marble. And and fairly, and relatively, it's tastefully done. It's not gaudy marble. It's not faux Michelangelo-y type marble like you see in some other churches. They actually had a cross on the altar, which is kind of unusual, I think, it's unusual in Episcopal churches too, come to think of it. Of course, it had a huge crucifix underneath the, I want to call it a baldacero, but it's the canopy over the four-columned it's over the central altar. It looked pretty much like it had been almost directly copied from St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Well, that's not a bad thing to copy if you want one of those, I guess. I like things a bit more quiescent myself, but that's just me. So other than the fact that they use, of course, this egregious New American Bible version, which it just makes it under the wire to be called a translation, but it's as if they went out of their way to choose the most deliberately ugly English language syntax that they could use to express themselves. I recognized the gospel reading, where it was from. It was from John 7, but I'm going to have to maybe track down, they didn't do an Old Testament and an epistle, but they did an Old Testament reading that is often used, was used, or when you read remarks on Revelations, there are parts of Revelations that pretty much quote this Old Testament. It's either in Isaiah or Jeremiah. So I'll track that down. Meanwhile, as I said, home safe by the grace of God, and we had a fairly cold start. Today it was 22 degrees this morning. And I guess it's going to stay below 40 most of the day. Still, there's no wind, so plus it's time, so just start acting like it's getting warmer and don't wear so many clothes. That sort of thing. Saw the start of the new highway arrangement down here at the end of the Worthington Road turn into Polaris. So things are moving on apace, at least in parts of these projects. The water is down to where you can walk around in the basement with just a little tiny layer over your shoes in just parts of the basement. So the drying out has begun. Meanwhile, though it hasn't begun out here on the creek, you've got, look how high up it is. This bad boy's high. Well, alrighty, YouTubers. I think I told you the wrong date. It's actually March 18th.